Megavon and friends, welcome back to another episode of the Lord of the Wrongs podcast, the only Tolkien podcast that the professor himself would dismiss as juvenile and crass. My name is Dan Zerby.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And together we will be discussing the writings, adaptations, news, games, and everything else regarding J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium in a way that he would probably be very disappointed by. We're back. It's been 5 months.
It has been, I'd say it goes beyond hiatus into
yeah, this was longer than our
period of separation.
yeah, this is longer than our break in between seasons, I think.
Yeah, we had there was a wedge aptly named Life that was driven between us.
It's true.
Audio wise and physically as well.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I moved
you did.
out of our home state down to Virginia. So
yeah,
I am now. It was always remote for us, but
it was. I think that blows a lot of people's minds. People are like, "Are you guys going to be able to like do the podcast still?" It's like we've never been in the same room and done this, not a single time. So
the only thing that's changed for us is we don't have to stop each other from talking about Lord of the Rings when we see each other in person anymore.
Right, because we don't see each other in person anymore. It's perfect.
Yes, exactly. It's all the juice is ready to squeeze for the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. And because we're men, we're terrible at keeping close contact with each other.
Yes, so that's the other issue. The length of our hiatus here. So
yeah.
But we're hoping to get a little bit back into the swing of things here.
Yes,
and
that would be
what
fun.
Better time?
Yeah, then after the Rings of Power ended.
Yes, yeah, then well after the entire season has already aired.
That's right. But to be fair, it's going to be like another 2 goddamn years before season 3 comes out. So
yeah,
we have plenty of time to do these episodes.
Yeah, we're not up against a deadline here or anything.
No, we're not.
Speaking of deadlines, I that's a weird, not a great transition, but
I've heard worse segues.
I made some claims long ago, Zerby, and it took a little research to look back and remember what those even were. But
that was the real reason for the large gap in between episodes. Sean had to do a lot of research about his Tolkien fun fact from our last episode.
Yeah, it was basically that scene where Gandalf rides off to Minas Tirith and for like a full year is just digging through all of the libraries and scrolls.
Or in the book, 17 years of like...
Yes.
I don't know if he's spending all of that time in the depths of Minas Tirith looking through old scrolls and shit. But
it did take a long time, but it
for him and
probably it probably should have taken me that long to realize that Tolkien did not, in fact, carry around a thermos of hot dogs with him, lukewarm hot dogs at that.
Yes. Yeah.
Everywhere he went. So
yeah, they were probably like, I don't know, English. It was blood sausage more likely than hot dogs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If anything, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of a bangers.
Yeah, some bangers or some blood sausage or some other disgusting version of British cuisine.
The idea that he was carrying around a thermos of hot dogs is ridiculous. A bag of bangers.
that was the whole time. Yeah.
That's what I came up with in my research. But
also that makes more sense. Yeah.
Legally, I have to disclose that he also did not do that. So
yeah, that's right. It was cheddar worst.
All right, consider us corrected. So
right, yeah.
How about we get into our thoughts, feelings, analysis, all that about the first half of the season 2 of the Rings of Power.
Yeah, Amazon's The Lord of Rings, The Rings of Power. Yeah,
I liked it.
It was better than the first season for sure. I mean, there's plenty of lore deviations and a few writing things that definitely made me go, okay, all right, I got to deal with that, I guess. But I would
Definitely,
say,
it felt like it was an enjoyable experience where you were choking down the occasional lore mistake as opposed to sort
yeah,
of vice versa,
yeah,
where you were just trying to look for the the moments of brightness in this sea of inaccuracies and weird pacing.
yeah. But I would say my overall first impressions were as I had an easier time myself watching season 2 on its own terms, like trying to not come at it from a person who's somewhat at least knowledgeable about the lore.
Yeah,
I did have an easier time watching it kind of just as a TV show. I thought the pacing was much improved and the writing was much improved with plenty of still things that I didn't like.
yeah, there's still room
Uh,
for improvement, but yes, I
for
agree.
sure. But I would say it was a head and shoulders above season 1 in terms of just making a watchable television show.
Yeah,
I think they
honestly,
just did a much better job for season 2.
yeah, when the first three episodes released, initially, I was super excited. It wasn't until the fourth episode when
Yeah.
we were starting to see. The fourth episode is my uh is where I started to the writing and everything started to rear its head again and started actually bothering me. But I mean
Yeah,
I feel like the first three episodes they addressed a number of issues and they
they really did.
made yeah, they made a lot of like they were instantly making some characters more likable. The
Yeah.
writing as a show just felt a lot cleaner and everything.
Yeah, it
But
did. It felt a lot tighter. Again,
yeah,
we have plenty of things to bitch and moan about. Don't get us wrong here. But like our first time we did our analysis of season 1, like we're not trying to just we don't want to make it pure emotional like blah. And
yeah, like
we don't want to be
ragging on
overly
it.
negative. Yeah, like we want to try to be a reasonable here while also being we're I think we're pretty fair.
I
you
think
know.
so. You know, it's easy to get frustrated by the stuff and then just write off the whole thing, but
Yeah, but
there is
there's so many like little things that were pointed out to me by far more knowledgeable Tolkien scholars, and that made me go like, "Holy shit, they really do know their stuff," which makes some of
yeah.
the other things that are really some of the bad choices, like or choices we didn't care for, at least, way
Yeah.
more egregious because they have these like
Because it's like,
deep
yeah, you
lore
knew
cuts.
what you were doing.
Yeah, it's like, so why did you then also do this?
Yeah.
But we're
So,
gonna go one at a time, I think, with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
how about we start at the very beginning with Sauron's sort of I said his kind of origin story almost, but origin
Origin
I guess
for this
for the
show, at
second
least.
age, yes,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this character we're seeing
yeah.
where
Major
yeah,
Julius Caesar vibes from that first scene, right?
yeah, actually, I
That
did
was
not.
exactly what
Wow,
I
yeah,
thought of.
actually, wow, and he got Brutus.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He got Brutus real bad.
yeah. Idar fucked him up. Yeah,
Yeah, so I actually really liked the overall concept of it because thinking about the orcs and everything being this like mistrusting, only following power sort of
yeah,
race, it makes sense that the transition of power would not be smooth from Morgoth to
yeah,
Sauron.
yeah. I did not have a problem with this idea that they were because like listen with things we know about orcs that they hate everything including themselves, so like why they would never love Sauron or Morgoth, they're just compelled to do the will of these uh
Yeah.
jerks.
You can the whole Adar thing, which by the way, bummer that I'm gonna need your actor
Oh,
naming
Joseph
ability.
Mall. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that they
Joseph Mall
swapped
did
out
not
the
return. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean he did a
yeah.
great job in this
Sam
season.
Hazeldine, yeah,
Yes.
he did do a fantastic job. I think it's one of the few times that I've seen like a recasting where the character definitely looks different and does have a kind of different vibe, but it's not a
I
downgrade.
stopped noticing after like the first
Yeah.
episode.
I mean, yeah, I think the acting that he did was fantastic. Again, it was a slightly different version of the character, but I think he did a great. I had no problems like just switching gears and being like, okay, this is the actor that's playing this character now.
Yeah,
I
but
I, re- I didn't have a hard time with that.
anyway, so I did like the overall concept of the scene, and I even liked how Sauron melted into black goo.
Yeah. Um, I thought it was weird. Is it like kind of an odd choice? But I also didn't hate it.
There are
It did.
multiple times where Sauron sort of becomes incorporeal in some sense or another when he's
Yeah.
sort of killed, but he can't actually be killed. So
Right.
he's
Yeah.
sort
I
of
mean,
when he was the necromancer and
right.
all that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, on the one hand, like the Sauron goop, the squid ink pasta guy was I stole that from the Rings of Power wrap up. Shout out, Rings of Power wrap up, Alan Sisto and Sarah Brown and James Tauber. They do a great podcast about that show. If you want to listen to that, highly recommend it. But I even though it arguably does undercut Sauron's power, like he should in theory be able at this point in his career be able to shapeshift at will. You know?
Yeah, after a couple of promotions, he was
Yeah,
lieutenant
yeah,
of Morgoth. At this
yeah.
point in
He
his
should have
career,
had more power. Yeah. But yeah, despite the fact that like my initial reaction, I'm looking at my notes from this first scene, and my initial reaction was kind of like, why does Sauron need to convince the orcs? Shouldn't he just dominate them? He's not running for Dark Lord. It's not an election, you know.
yeah,
but
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 he's
even
not.
so, it was so well done that I just don't have a problem with it. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
and I actually liked how they made Morgoth's crown a sort of item of power, considering it held Silmarils for
Yeah,
quite a while, and
it
it
did.
was
Yeah.
pretty
Well, and they
evil.
yeah, and this does jump ahead to episode whichever episode I want to say
Yeah, like
episode 5
yeah,
where
5 or 6. Yeah,
Galadriel and Adar are sitting at the table after he captures her,
it
and
was
she's
5.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and she was just like, "Ugh." It's like, yeah, yeah, that's what it is. And she's like, I thought, and then I thought dot dot dot, and he goes, there are many stories, which was a pretty good way of introducing like or having the crown of Morgoth there, because in the lore, obviously, when he's defeated, it's made into a collar and keeps him chained outside of the universe. But
Yeah.
so that was a pretty quick, easy way, I guess, of them
Yeah, it
going
was
like,
a solid
it's
patch
fine.
that
It's fine.
that one didn't bother me. But
Yeah, I
the
didn't have a problem with it.
it,
It's just storytelling, It's like, it's not a devastating change from the lore, It's
no,
just
but the him needing to eat rats and humans and stuff in order to recorporealize was
yeah,
a little. He's not an actual vampire or werewolf, Like,
right. Yeah, he can just
does he
turn
need?
into one, but yeah, he's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, yeah. I will say that stuff reminded me very much those shots of him like eating the rat and like Sauron goo eating stuff and crawling along in the caves really reminded me of like Gollum's de-evolution at the beginning of the Return of the King, which
Oh yeah, it definitely called back to that.
and they do that a lot, and I really, for the most part, I don't care for it because it takes me out of it. Because to me, it goes, "Hey, remember the Lord of the Rings movies? How good those were."
Yeah, this one was a little more reminiscent, which
Yeah, that's not even the
it was
best
still
example of that.
cool. But yeah, there
Yeah,
are definitely a lot of them being glorious horse charges, which I think are
yeah,
overused and never. They're always gonna pale compared to
the
Battle of the
Charger, the
Pelennor.
Rohirrim.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the Rider Rohirrim. Yeah, it's never gonna be
yeah,
as good as that.
yeah. So
Um,
maybe stop trying.
yeah, I do like there are ways of doing fan servicey stuff like that where it's pulled off, and I think there are examples of that in this season, but there are far more, in my view, that again distract me from the show I'm watching to remind me of the Peter Jackson movies.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I don't know that that's very I understand why they're doing that, right? Like a lot of the people are coming to this show from the movies and not the books. So it's
Yeah.
understandable, but it also I I wish they would do it less or to be more subtle with it, I guess.
Yes, yeah. It requires a subtle hand, and that's not always present.
Yeah, it's not.
All right.
Um
So, was there anything else you can think of from that sort
in
of
the first scene. Well, I thought
opening?
yeah, when he's like when they do like kill him before he turns into goo and he explodes and it just ice ages the Forodwaith, I thought that was really cool.
It was, yeah,
It looked
definitely.
really neat. Um
It was
th-
definitely again reminiscent of like Morgoth's power or like Karn Doom or something like that.
yeah, yeah. And the following scene where he meets up with those people escaping the Southlands and blah 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 blah, and it explains how he ends up on the raft, but it still does not, to me, explain
I,
why.
I had the
He,
same.
I'm sure it's at this point, if they haven't explained really effectively at this point why he was on that ship and on that raft, they're not going to.
I
But to
thought
me, it's still a gaping plot hole.
were they
It's a
go? I thought they were going. The idea was they were going to Numenor.
I think that seems to be what they were implying. They never called it that, but I think they were implying that they were trying to get to Numenor.
Yeah,
Um,
but I
but again,
mean,
why would
either way,
Sauron
it
be
was
doing that
still
still?
pure
Like it
luck.
just
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's like he and Galadriel end up on that same raft. It's like I still don't.
Less contrived, still contrived.
Yeah, it's they haven't justified that choice to me, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
It's not.
um,
Listen, it's not necessarily that important, but it's still something I keep thinking about,
yeah.
and I think about the show. I'm like, they really haven't answered that question in a satisfactory way for my for my taste, but
I,
whatever.
I I know we've spent over 10 minutes on this opening scene, but I feel like it was one
Yeah,
of the most important scenes in the
yeah,
beginning of the show.
yeah.
Uh,
I'd agree with that.
because
And
it
the
just
sea
it
monster
does.
looks awesome. Still, the
Yes,
sea
of
worm is
course.
so
Yeah.
cool. I really do like that thing. It's pretty neat.
Um, Definitely cooler than the slug from the depths of the earth that jumps out of a mud pit in that
Yeah,
fourth episode. But we'll get there.
yeah. We'll get there where we can complain about that.
As far as Sauron related notes, I didn't have a lot when he was in Mordor, but I did say that the warg did look better in this
Yes,
season.
the warg looked much better. It did not look like a chihuahua.
It looked similar enough where you're like,
But
yeah, that's
yeah,
still the same.
yeah, but
Uh,
it looked less silly. It looked better for sure.
yes, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was the CGI or if it was the design, but it just looked
I
better.
think also it being in the dark instead of just like
Always
right out in
helped.
the open sunlight definitely
Yeah,
doesn't hurt. But
agreed.
and I
Yeah,
just liked that he was able to convince it just by being
yeah.
the master of evil
Yep,
and
yep.
master of
And
wolves and
Bones.
all that.
Yeah, but also Bones. He did have a bone.
He had a bone. It doesn't hurt.
It just it
You
just
need a
goes to show
locus
if you
or
got
a
the right
focus.
treats, you can make any fuzzy friend into your fuzzy friend.
Yes. So you know what? You heard it from Zerby. Go out and try and tame wolves with
Yeah,
bones and
snacks.
rawhide. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all it takes.
that's right. Uh,
So
so
did
moving
you?
on from the first part, I guess.
Yeah. So the next note I had was honestly was us seeing Kirdan.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, the first episode with Kirdan, I was teary-eyed the entire time because I was so happy.
He
I
is
it was just what
so
it was exact.
awesome.
It was perfect. I was so
He's the most
excited.
elf-like elf of any of the
Yup.
elves.
His
And
beard was perfect, which made me so angry that he was shaving
oh,
it and
I
following up
know
the episode.
shaving the beard was like, why did they even do that? It probably took him like
I, yeah,
2,000 years to grow the damn thing.
listen, it's like, yeah, what the hell? I really, it made me so sad that they
I get
had him
I
shaving.
I
Um,
I get that maybe they were trying to be like, hey, he has the ring now, so he's like
right.
preserving the youth of
His
the elves
youth,
and all of
yeah.
that.
I'm sure that's what they were going for, but it's a
I
little,
I
if that's what they were doing, I think it was a little too subtle, though.
Yeah, but even then, it's like you didn't need to. He's
Yeah.
he's the only elf with a beard, and
Yeah.
like you could just explain it instead of having it like they. I don't think they explained it, and they just had him shave. So it was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you know,
Yeah. But that one shot though, where it's mostly him silhouetted looking longingly to the west. Oh, I got fucking
yes,
chills. Oh, I
yeah,
got chills watching that part. I was like, oh shit, yeah. Oh man, yes. Yeah, I was very, very happy with
yeah. I
at least in this first episode with how they portrayed Tyrion.
honestly,
It was perfect. I
he
really think it's
he
pitch
didn't
perfect.
really. I mean, there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, would he do that? But overall, he remained probably one of my favorite characters of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, I don't know. The shaving is still weird,
Yeah, the
but that's all right.
shaving. I mean, like I thought it was like if they were gonna have him shaving with the world's sharpest seashell was fine. I guess it's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
he's always by the shore, so that tracks. I guess. Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah, he's got ships to make before he can ever go back to before he can ever go to Valinor. So that's yeah, that was
Yeah,
great. I did like
but
that.
the I mean the reason we even are led to him in all of that though is because Elrond
Distrust the
stole the
ring.
rings and uh
Yeah,
is trying to prevent. What did you think about that whole kind of storyline of his mistrusting?
I well, he has to turn out to be incorrect, obviously, right? Because like it,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean he is.
he has
He's
to turn out
incorrect.
to be incorrect. I don't necessarily have a problem with him distrusting it. I thought the scene that followed up, the Sauron intro with Galadriel chasing Elrond with the rings, the tone of that chase scene felt a little lighthearted for the
I was gonna
context.
say it was like playful.
It
That
was very
was
playful, and it was not a playful scene that follows with Gil-galad at all. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was great.
yeah,
And they're having this like weird like billowy sort of almost like game of tag chase through the
yeah,
woods that it was like
yeah,
super high stakes, but then it
but it
obviously
felt very like lighthearted. Yeah,
it felt like it wasn't high stakes and it just sort of turned
yeah.
out not to be.
Until the next scene, yeah,
Yeah.
until they're before Gil-galad and Elrond jumps off a cliff just like his mom, but did not turn into a bird.
Oh.
But did you know? I did kind of like that parallel, the idea that like she had the Silmaril and she jumped instead of
Into
giving
the
it up,
sea.
and
Yeah.
he did a similar thing. I didn't mind that parallel, even though again it was is he really prepared to die for something he really doesn't know that much about? Really, he's not that like.
Yeah.
It's like
I
I
mean, he
know he's
didn't.
distrustful, but he's not certain of anything. So it was like that was a little I don't know,
I mean, he didn't trust it
dramatic.
until she healed that other
Yeah,
random elf with it. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, it was. So overall,
They have to add some drama, right? Like it's a TV show. If
yes,
it
yeah,
was
no,
this,
there needs to be conflict around the rings.
like
It
so
can't just be
I
a
don't
pure
have a problem
solution.
with it. Yeah, some of it might be a little uh I think they could have had a little more nuance for Elrond's character in
Yeah,
terms
he
of his
was
relationship
sort of
to the rings.
obstinate.
Yeah, because he's got to come around because he's gonna be a ring bearer at the end of the by the end of this show.
Spoiler
Sorry,
alert.
guys,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, but if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you already know that. But
But
uh,
yeah. So I was just gonna say overall, just as far as the like storylines go, I felt personally like the quality was almost inverted entirely for pretty much every storyline for me across the board. Like the elves became maybe my favorite storyline.
mm,
The uh the Harfoots were probably excuse me, my least favorite.
yeah, the Harfoots and the Stranger and the Rune storyline is definitely the one I have the biggest issue with in this
Yeah, there are
season.
a lot of
Uh,
gripes with that.
we'll get there, but
I didn't enjoy I didn't really enjoy the dwarves as much this season.
oh
I think
really?
it,
I did. I enjoyed the dwarf storyline myself as much as I did in the first season.
I
But go
think it
ahead.
was
Yeah.
well done, but I just didn't like it as much. And
Okay. Yeah.
I actually liked Numenor more than in the first season as well.
Definitely. I agree with that
Yeah.
for sure. Numenor got much more fleshed out. I am excited about that storyline. I love
Yes.
how they're doing it.
I,
Um,
it
Again, I
felt
have
like
some
they were,
criticisms I can make, but
yeah, it felt
overall, I
like they
think
were
it's a great.
rushing to get to this point in the first
Yes.
season.
They were rushing through a lot of stuff in the first season while taking their sweet ass time on other stuff that didn't end up mattering. So, yeah.
So, all right, so let's, why
um,
don't we touch on the dwarves, unless there's more you wanted to.
well, they didn't do any dwarves in the first episode.
Oh, I figured we were just kind of
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we're
Vaguely.
talking about.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Storylines
was
within the first four seasons. Yeah. First four
yeah,
episodes. Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
not going
Yeah. Yeah.
strictly episode by
Yeah.
episode here, I guess,
That's
but
fine. So yeah, then yeah, the dwarves. Uh, Glad we got to meet Narvi. That was pretty great.
yes,
I'm
I was
very
happy to see
excited at Narvi,
Narvi.
And I love Narvi. I love how they used his character in this season as well.
Yeah, he
Uh,
definitely seems like the guy that had his name on those doors, and otherwise we knew nothing
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
One thing I will say, and it was especially apparent during the whole during the fourth is the sun or
yes,
fifth?
yeah.
Yes,
No, during the fourth, yeah,
yeah. Him being disowned, him being named Durin and being
yeah.
disowned and disrespected by everybody.
Doesn't
It
really
was,
make a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know why it kind of
Well,
kept
yeah.
like
Well,
annoying me.
Well, it goes back to the fact that there's not supposed to be two Durins alive at the same time because there's only one Durin, and he's supposed to be a literal
Like
return
the
of
avatar of
the original
yes.
Durin Longbeard. Yeah, the father of the Longbeards. So it does go back to that issue for sure.
But anyway, I liked their relationship. I didn't dislike the dwarf storyline. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
you just didn't like it
Definitely.
as much as you in the first season.
No, yeah. In the first
That's
season I was
good.
very
Yeah,
charmed by them, but I think it just got it almost got too dramatic for me in a way where I wasn't
yeah,
able to enjoy it as much.
yeah. I mean, the tone shifted a bit for sure. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the rings get involved, so it gets darker for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So its
definitely.
rings of power get involved. Yeah,
But no, overall, I think I like the relationship between him and his father developing more, and
yeah,
um, just the way that like they really captured all of the like dwarven shortcomings well, I
yeah,
think, in this season, and like
yeah. I agree. The parts of the dwarves that would be the negative aspects of their personalities for sure. Yeah,
that are susceptible to the ring, but also their nobility as well, which is
yeah,
like a very
yeah.
important distinction that makes dwarves not inherently evil, which
Right.
is,
Yeah,
you can kind of sometimes when you're reading deeper into Tolkien and stuff, you kind of see a lot of stuff where you're like, why aren't the dwarves just like they're kind of made out to be the good guys generally, but they're, a lot
yeah,
of their personality doesn't seem
yeah.
inclined towards that, but you do see
Well,
it
we
with
see some. You do see like some wicked dwarves in the first age for sure too.
I mean, they were probably all just most of them
But
I think were
you know,
just killed before it became relevant, I guess. But
yeah.
um, yeah, no,
Yeah, well,
I
I mean, the way Tolkien looked at the dwarves evolved as he, went over time. I mean,
yeah,
by the end of the Lord of the Rings, it's very different from the way he's talking about the dwarves in The Hobbit, where it's like dwarves are not heroes; they're a
yeah,
calculating folk, blah 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 blah. And then but Gimli's the best ever, so he gets to go to freaking Valinor,
yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it was still great to see Khazad-dûm, and I liked the way that it was set up to make them
need the rings.
need the rings. Yeah.
Yes, with the light shafts collapsing and all that, and yeah, and they can't hear the mountain anymore and all that. It it was well done, I thought.
Yeah, I guess there's not even that much to cover early on with the dwarves,
Yeah, I
honestly.
feel like
Until
the
they get
last
the
few episodes.
rings,
Yeah,
that's when it starts to pop off in there.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, they
Yeah.
did make the Ithildin for the Western
Yes.
Gate in
Yeah,
the
they did
like
show that
third episode or
Fielden. Yeah.
something, or
Yeah.
maybe second. I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, I do hope that we're gonna get the installation of the Doors of Durin because it almost like the way they showed them in I don't know which again, this might be jumping ahead actually. I don't remember which episode they actually show it, but I think it's 5 or 6
It
even.
was before
Was it?
it was before Sauron even came to Celebrimbor. So because I think they made the
No, he
Ithildin.
was there, wasn't he? I thought he was
Mm,
there. Damn
he
it.
was. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I watched I sort of
Yeah.
watched a recap to remind myself of some of the stuff from the early
Yeah.
episodes. But either way, that was one moment though where I definitely felt the time compression for sure, because it was like
Yeah. Yeah.
they. It seems like they were friends, the dwarves and the elves, for like I don't know 2 months or something. Like
Yeah.
judging by
Yeah, it
out
does.
of 3,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah, the time compression it, it's necessary. I think it's an unavoidable to tell the story that they're trying to tell, but
Yeah.
it has become it did become a little noticeable. Again, not too distracting for my taste, but
No,
it
no.
is more noticeable for sure
That is
if you
just
know
one
the
of the
lore.
moments where I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird that they just became friends, allies
Yeah,
with Eregion, and then
right.
they're immediately Eregion's gonna fall within, a few
Yeah,
like weeks or something.
yeah, it was a yeah, that was a pretty fast turnaround.
So like overall, obviously, it's necessary for a show if you want to
Yeah,
if you want to involve any mortals in a show like this and not just have it be elves and generations of men and stuff, it needs to be
yeah,
compressed. But
it
I
has to
mean,
be.
and we
Yeah,
talked about it in the first when we
yeah,
covered the first season, but yeah, there were a few moments where it bothered me a little, but overall it's like, it has to be
it's what
done.
it is. Yeah, yeah. And I
But
think, and I'm also very interested, just like when this show maybe wraps up in 20 years or whatever. But
yeah.
we go back and watch. I wonder what these things are going to bother us as much, you know? Because there's
Yeah.
things in like it's interesting because like the first time I watched the Peter Jackson movies, I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And now when I watch them, I still do love them. I'm not knocking those films, but there are plenty of things now that I watch the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings and I go, I do not like that.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a
That's a
couple
change I no
lore
longer
breaks
like.
or
Yeah.
changes, or there are artifacts of them being from the early 2000s. A lot of weird
Right.
slow mo and stuff where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes now I'll watch back and be like, oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
I kind of never noticed that when I was
Yeah.
younger, but
I will
yeah,
say the extended editions too are particularly have way more scenes in them that make me go like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. The extended Return of
makes
the
sense. It
King
was cut.
honestly has the most amount of things that I hate, despite arguably being the best film of the trilogy. But
Yeah.
the extended has the most things that I absolutely hate. But we're talking about something different
Yes.
now.
So, all right.
Sorry.
So I suggest that we talk Celebrimbor at the end. How about that?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So let's. One thing I did want to say. So let's jump to Isildur, and
Yes.
I was bummed. I'm still bummed that Nazanin Baniadi did not come back this
Yeah.
season as Bronwyn, because she was
Yeah.
awesome.
She was
But
awesome. It seemed like they were like I'm guessing that she was not sure whether she was going to come back, which is why they didn't show
so
her like totally good at
she
the end of the first season, you know.
she
She's
I did
Iranian,
look.
right?
I saw when I looked up I just was curious, but she went to Iran as like an activist, basically.
Yeah, I
So,
was gonna say, yeah, she's
it's good for her. I'd say that's a pretty
yeah,
valid reason to.
perfectly noble. And let's be real, they were gonna kill Bronwyn eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
He was definitely gonna die
it
eventually.
it might have
He
been
might have
nice
even,
on screen, I guess, but
yeah,
I guess
it worked well enough, I guess. Yeah,
the
it
whole
was just kind of a shame, but
the whole Bechdel thing with with
yeah,
what's his face, the elf guy.
yeah,
How am I?
Arondir,
Arondir, thank you.
yeah,
uh, Maybe we didn't need on screen anyway. So,
yeah,
uh, but I like to seal doors kind of
yeah,
journey. It's kind of like
yeah.
a cool coming of age thing. I did not like Arondir and Theo's whole and just the whole end thing. This is like getting into the fourth episode, but that
Yeah.
was like
I I it's weird because so that scene with the Ents, on the one hand, I was very moved by it, and on the other hand, I was like, this doesn't quite jive with the lore, so I'm a little uncomfortable with it. It's nice
so
to see an Entwife, but
I
also like that's not how I would have. That's not how I've envisioned them,
no.
at
So
least.
I would say it's actually for me it was kind of okay with the lore because we know that Ithilien was a garden for them.
Yes, yes.
And it makes sense they would be there. I think it for me it was cool with the lore. I think it was just bad for the show.
Mm,
Like it that episode felt episodic to me. Like they were
mm.
going like it was almost
Like it
like
wasn't part of the bigger whole. Yeah.
yeah, like Arondir was like a PI and we're following his adventures, like figuring out like it just felt so removed and the pacing of that episode was weird. The mud worm jumps out and eats them. They
Yeah.
have which like uh, I don't think we need to explain too much why that is just weird and the delivery of the ham-fisted delivery of the line of like there are like
Yeah.
creatures from
Yeah. They're
the
creatures from
depths of the earth.
the deep places of the earth. Yeah.
Yeah, and where it's like,
And
is that a deep place of the earth or is that just a
it's
mud
like
pit?
that looks like a mud pit to me. And then also it's like, but we'll call him Supper. I was like, that's not a line a Ron Deere should say. He doesn't have a sense of humor.
No, and also, yeah,
Ew.
like don't eat the mudworm
Yeah,
first of all.
seriously, like yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's an unknown creature of malice from the depths of the earth. Let's eat it.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, that whole scene did feel a little just it didn't I don't feel like it did anything other than just show that the Isildur's crush was not all bad, that she was like tried to save
Yeah,
them. But
it
beyond
was
that, like and but I don't think it even I don't think we needed that. It just didn't
no.
that scene did not work for me at all. I didn't care for it.
And there were a number of those scenes for me in the fourth episode. I mean,
Yeah.
basically the whole end thing just felt unnecessary to me. Where
Well, I just don't it again, I don't see it. It didn't really do anything for
didn't
the
advance the
story.
story.
It
It
just yeah.
it developed one character that we don't really know or care about, the Isildur's lady
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just the whole Southlands thing.
I hope they tie it up a little bit. Well, I think actually at
Yeah,
the end of the season they tied up the Southlands thing and the Polar Gear thing a little
yeah, with
better.
Kemen and everything.
Kevin
So
showing up. But that's the
yes,
last episode. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that, I guess, later. But so that was, I guess, a decent resolution. But
Yeah.
I just and also just in general, without Bronwyn, I feel like the Southlands thing is much less compelling.
Yeah, she was kind of an emotional core to that story, and then she was just gone.
Yeah, and now Sauron just has nothing to do with them, and so
Yeah.
it's like kind of like okay, maybe once they're interacting with
Yeah.
the Numenorians, it'll be
Yeah, I think that's gonna pick up where we're gonna start seeing like the Numenor turning evil, the colonization sort of thing, and being dicks to the
yeah.
quote unquote lowmen of Middle Earth. Yeah. Yeah, he gets. Yeah, I am kind of excited though. That I am very excited actually that we're starting to see like
Yeah.
the Numenor, Imperial Numenor, where they're just huge assholes, and
Oh, I'm
they
super
become the
excited.
worst. Yeah.
I am. This season made me hopeful for the entire like corruption of Numenor and
Yes.
the imperialization and everything. Just I am. I was originally excited before the show. Definitely got tempered by the first season, and now I'm.
Yes.
Although I will say I was. I believe he die in the first four episodes. Valandil. Or was that fifth
That
episode or sixth?
I think it might have been episode 5. I'm not certain.
Okay, then I will not talk about it. But
uh,
no, I'm. It's definitely
yeah, episode 6.
yes. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think that was
the
episode 6
political
or
drama
episode
and
5. Sorry, it
everything.
happened in episode 5. Yes.
Okay, yeah, it is. It's developing in Numenor, and I am here for it.
Hell yeah, definitely.
I mean, we could talk about the. All right. So let's do. I think that's basic. Oh, okay. One thing I wanted to touch on, the orc
Yep.
baby. Thoughts?
So, to me, I understand why a lot of people got upset by it, but to me, that part does not break lore. So we know there are orc babies. I saw so many comments online of people being like, "That's not how orcs are born in mud pits." It's like you're wrong. You should read the book before you start commenting online.
Yeah.
Orcs
Also, those are
reproduced with
urukai.
sexual intercourse. Orcs
And
reproduce with sexual intercourse. We know this. This is
orcs
how
fuck.
Tolkien wrote it. Orcs fuck, y'all.
That's just facts. If
That's
you got a
just
problem
fact.
with that,
Yeah.
there's
Take
not
it up
much
with
we
the
can do
professor.
about it.
Yeah, take it up with
Unfortunately.
the dead professor. But so I think that the baby was a little less offensive to a lot of people as the idea that it had caring parents. So for me, I didn't have a problem with the orc family, and that because yes, orcs are evil, but Tolkien never fully settled on the nature of orcs. That they would be irredeemable is not something he was comfortable with as a Catholic, certainly. And even
Yeah.
within his own universe, he didn't feel comfortable with that. So he never really settled. I think by the end of his life, he was probably thinking that orcs were actually corrupted humans instead of elves. But
Yeah,
we
but
got
also
what we got in the
with
Silmarillion. You know.
yeah, and with Adar being a corrupted elf that is the father of
Yeah.
Uruks, I think it makes sense
Yeah.
lore wise that they do
Yeah. Well, like
reproduce in the manner of the children of Iluvatar.
yeah. And the idea, like, yes, orcs might be evil or corrupted, but that doesn't mean they want their young to die.
No,
They still
yeah,
have self-preservation. That's why
yeah, like
in the
a
Lord of the Rings, like when Sam and Frodo are going through Mordor and there's the trackers who are trying to hunt them and Gollum, like they want to run off. Like you hear about like orcs wanting to run off and the big bosses, like they don't like them, you
yeah,
know? So
they fear them, which is why they
they-
follow them.
yes. So to me, the idea that there would be orc parents that don't want their baby to die is not a problem with the lore, as far as I'm concerned.
It
But
felt shoehorned in the scene,
maybe,
but
maybe,
otherwise it was fine.
maybe that's fair. Maybe the scene didn't work very well. Like maybe that part didn't work very well. Maybe it was too jarring.
Yeah,
But
show wise, but lore wise, it
I don't.
doesn't bother me either.
Yeah, I don't. That didn't bother me. I don't
I
care.
I
I'm just like,
think
that doesn't. I don't care.
yeah, it's also like he
Not a
was
big deal.
so waffly on it, the professor, that
Yeah,
I think them making a choice is fine.
it's fine. And again, it's not like they showed like this whole thing. Like
It didn't have a softcore graphic orc sex scene,
yes, which
which
I thought
is
was
my main complaint from
yeah, that's a
the
mistake.
first
They
4
should have
episodes.
they should have shown it. They should have shown it.
Because obviously that
I want to
wasn't
see
part
some
of
orc genitals.
that wasn't part of Tolkien's values, but orcs are, they're bad. So
Yeah, they're
if
bad guys.
anybody, who else?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to
Yeah.
touch
Anyway,
on that. because I figure. All right. Let's go. Three talking points left. I'll list them off. If you have something else, we can talk about it first. But
Yeah.
Galadriel's fight at the end of the fourth episode was badass
It was.
and not over the top. I thought that
Yes,
was a
agreed.
great like elven fight depiction where like
where they didn't violate the laws of physics.
yeah, and she's just being a badass who is just outclassing everybody around her, but
Yep.
not to the point of ludicrousness. So
Yeah, because she does get captured. It's
yes,
like that is.
yeah.
It's like it would make sense she would kick that much ass and then not be able to kick everybody's ass.
And Adar just grabbing her flaming arrow was just
it was
badass.
So great. And what he says there. Okay, so he says a star shines upon our meeting or whatever, like that same greeting that Frodo gives to in the Fellowship of the Ring to Haldir. Or was it not Haldir?
Or was it Gildor?
Gildor, yes. Gildor and Glorian, yes. But one of the ways this is one of the deep cut lore things that I would have never in a million years have picked up on if Corey Olsen hadn't picked up on it first. Was his pronunciation was like an older pronunciation. It was like
so he pronounced it
pre-Feanorian.
He pronounced it like Quenya instead of...
Yeah, it was like a th sound instead of a k sound, I think. One of those words.
So he pronounced it like Quenya instead of Sindarin.
Well, it was a Quenya phrase, but like the specific...
That's
like there's one word that's specifically like this is how until Feanor changed the way they spoke. It's like that's such a deep cut. That's
crazy. Yeah. Well, that is interesting to know and something we would never have come up with.
Never. I would have never known that. Yeah, they had to be explained to me. But it just shows how old he is. So that's a perfect example of like these crazy deep cuts of, oh shit, these people know what they're talking about, which makes it so weird that they make other decisions that just don't jive with the lore at all, you know?
So you're going to tell me this guy's speaking a pre-Feanorian dialect of Old Elvish, and then you're going to have Círdan shave his beard.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's like, is his beard central to who he is? No, but it's kind of important.
He's the bearded elf.
Yeah, it illustrates something that like Tolkien wanted to convey, that like he's one of the oldest elves, period, you know.
Okay, anyway. All right, we've talked about the beard enough, sorry.
Okay, we talked about the beard enough. Probably way more than enough.
All right, so the two things I wanted to cover, I figure we'll cover the Harfoots and particularly the Stranger and Tom, and then we can talk about Sauron and Celebrimbor.
Okay, yeah.
Is there anything else you can think of? That's all the storylines.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention was in the first episode when Sauron as Halbrand still is he says, "Let my people go." There were a lot of biblical references in that first episode.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But when Adar makes him like kiss his feet and he's like swearing to serve the Lord of Mordor with that little smile. I loved that. I just wanted to say that. I just really liked that.
It was just satisfying.
I swear to serve the Lord of Mordor, and then he like smirks to himself. I was like, that was great. I really enjoyed that. Thought it was fantastic.
We will touch on it more in a minute, but I absolutely loved Sauron in this season. But
God damn it, yeah, I do.
Another thing I also just remembered from Numenor is the eagle. Definitely not clearly picking out our Pharazôn.
Yes.
The eagle's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Like, Pharazôn. And the eagle's like, whoa.
No, hang on.
What the fuck makes you think I came here for that guy?
I'm intelligent enough to understand speech, and I'm
a servant of Manwë, motherfucker. You think I don't know what you're doing?
If I had vocal cords, I would absolutely correct you on this. If I could
tried
human speech.
Yeah, but all that came out was
Yeah, so that was frustrating in a satisfying way.
Yeah, frustrating in a perfect way. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
which
that was
will
great.
be, I think, the sort of modus operandi for the entire Numenor
Yeah.
storyline. It will just be, it's gonna be frustrating, but it's still gonna be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes,
All right,
indeed.
so The Stranger.
Yeah. So I guess I would start by saying for myself, I, on the one hand, did enjoy the reunion of Nori and Poppy, but also it completely undercut their really beautiful, sad farewell at the end of season one. So why the hell did they bother?
Yeah, I feel like
It's
I
like they
didn't.
didn't know what they were doing yet
Yeah, I
when
didn't
they ended the first
rewatch
season.
the first season before the second.
Yeah, I started and I was like, I feel like I just watched these, honestly. So I'll just watch the recap before the episodes start,
Yeah, which is maybe not a great sign to begin with, but
Yeah, well, again,
uh,
like the first season had its issues, right?
yeah, but I feel like if we watched it back to back, it'd be like, okay, so that was what, like uh 2 hours of screen time. Like basically for them,
Yeah.
no time has passed before they're
Right.
reunited immediately,
Yeah.
and then
I know. It was like, okay, all right, really? That's that. All right. What was the point of that then? Yeah.
yeah, and then I mean, I did kind of like the walking song being a like oral history thing.
Yeah, like a map to where they came from. That was interesting. I didn't dislike that at all. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I thought it was a neat. It was neat.
so
And
the
and
part
that's they don't have like a regular writing system, the Harfoot, so like they
no,
would be passing that down orally.
yeah,
So yeah, I thought that was fine. I thought it was neat.
I think a lot of the Harfoot and store stuff was like I was cool with it generally.
Yeah,
I don't
despite the
think.
fact that the stores are supposed to be river folk. Yeah.
Well, maybe they will be, and
But yeah,
by the end of the.
they'll end up being as like Gollum and has
Yeah, I
to
was gonna say
exist. So
Gollum is
yeah.
this. Smeagol is a store hobbit.
Yep.
And they live near the Anduin, which is where the Harfoots live near now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we can pretty much be sure that they are
Yeah.
going to migrate west is going to be
Oh
their
yeah.
whole storyline.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so that it didn't bother me too much. But the Stranger, what are your thoughts on the Stranger and particularly Tom Bombadil?
I I I struggled a lot with the Tom Bombadil. I love the Tom Bombadil of the books, and I want to say I give the writers and the showrunners credit for trying, but I don't think they were successful. I did not
Yeah,
care for the Tom Bombadil stuff. If they had just called him something else, it would have been all right, honestly. Or if they, I don't know. I feel like the idea that he would be, I was prepared to accept uh Tom Bombadil's role as
Gandalf's
Obi-Wan Kenobi
teacher.
slash
Yeah.
slash Yoda teaching Luke Skywalker how to use his lightsaber. I I could get on board with that. It's they just made too many changes for me, for my taste personally. The fact that he was in Rune, the fact that Goldberry's not around, the fact that he's uh
Doesn't speak in verse.
well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I understand like he was a little serious also for my taste too.
Yeah,
He
he
should have been.
was he was pretty
It's not that he wasn't
dour.
silly at all, but I think he should have been way sillier.
Yeah,
I think they could have done the same thing while being a little closer to book Tom Bombadil. I don't know. I really struggled with it.
I was actually kind of excited initially, pretty much as soon as Gandalf got sucked into, or sorry, the Stranger got
Yeah,
sucked
the
into.
Grand Elf,
Yeah,
but that's in the second half. That's in the end. We'll get to that.
yeah, got sucked into the tree. I was like, oh shit, wait,
Yeah,
this is
yeah, they
familiar.
really, yeah. And again, the idea that, but does Tom Bombadil like collect like antagonistic trees? Like, you know what I mean? I'm
think
like, it's
I
like,
think
damn, Old Man
he
Ironwood, Old Man Willow. I mean, they're not going
I
to
think
show Old Man Willow because this is not the story of Lord of the Rings. I get that. It just felt a little too close. Like
I
with
th-
it felt like a
I
box
think
was being checked more
what we
than
need to
a
see is Tom Bombadil's sort of career of trying to gentrify the forests of Middle Earth.
Oh
Because
man,
he keeps
yeah,
parking it next to these evil trees in the hopes of telling them they're naughty boys and to let
yeah,
people go. And then, yeah, no,
yeah.
I agree. I was excited on some level, and then just
It's
the
like I didn't.
more I saw of him, I was just
Yeah,
slight. It was nothing egregious, I think. It was just so
yeah,
many slight disappointments that it
yeah.
just added up to me being
Exactly.
wholly
That's what I
turned
struggled
off.
with. I was like, any of these one things in particular, I can be like, okay. But it was the combination of all of these different things that made
No
me really struggle.
Goldberry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we did hear her singing, and they never addressed that. And I don't
And
think we're
there's
seeing
no
Tom again in
river.
the show. So I don't get it.
Is
Was
she
she in
living in a
that weird
well?
jar? Well, was she living in that jar that moved on the shelf behind the stranger when he's taking a bath? I'm like, I don't know.
In which case, does she just watch people take baths? What is going on here? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't. It was. I just struggled with the Tom Bombadil stuff a bit. Again, it wasn't anything one thing in particular. It was all of the things that I
yeah.
had a hard time with.
I would say if you don't know, and we did an episode on Tom Bombadil, correct? Yes. I think if you read the first part of the Lord of the Rings and get to the Tom Bombadil chapter, it's not that far in.
No, it's not. It's in the first
It's
book of yeah.
it's before the Council of Elrond, so it's got to be that takes up about a third of the book, so it's got to be
It
in
sure
the
does.
first half. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's right after they escape the Shire, so
yeah,
you'll see what we talk about. We're talking about, and Tom Bombadil is like a love him or hate him kind of thing, where he's like almost like
yeah,
he's totally out of place, but
yeah,
it's nice that he is. And here he
yeah,
almost doesn't feel out of place enough.
yeah, yeah. I think that's true. Yeah, yeah, like I've said, I personally love Tom Bombadil. And by the way, anybody who hates Tom Bombadil, like book Tom Bombadil, that's okay. You're allowed to, because even Sean Gunner, the chair of the Tolkien Society, hates Tom Bombadil. And he is,
Yeah.
like I said, the chair of the Tolkien Society. So you're allowed to not like aspects
Yeah.
of the work if you don't
He
like,
is I like him a lot because it injects he's almost like one last shot of Hobbit goofiness, the Hobbit goofiness into
Right.
the Lord of the Rings before it gets real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, we might have benefited. Maybe take the goofiness out of the Arondir storyline and put it into the Tom Bombadil storyline,
Yeah.
and you might have done a little better for yourselves.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the high note. I figured we kind of hit the
Yeah.
downer before we go to what
Yeah.
is probably my favorite part of this season.
Oh my God. Definitely the highlight. I mean, this storyline, if this doesn't win any like Emmys or something, like I will be very disappointed in the Emmys because this,
Yeah, I
ugh.
think.
Anatar and Celebrimbor. God damn, dude. So
Yeah,
good.
Laura,
So well
so
done.
we were, I believe in the first season kind of analysis, we were talking about how he is Anatar, but that is really his elven alias, basically, that he used to trick
Right.
elves
Yeah.
in this case specifically. So
Yes.
the way he transforms into Anatar is awesome.
Yes, it is. That transformation. So one of the things I liked so much about this was like the amount of when you saw the trailers, like the amount of like Clark Kent jokes people were making, like
Oh yeah,
about
where he, he
how's he not
puts
going to know
on
that he's
he,
Halbrand
he
and
puts
whatever,
on
you
his
know?
elven ears and he's unrecognizable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and a blonde wig. And it's like I never thought that that's how they were going to do that myself. Like
I was really hoping.
I wasn't surprised by the way they ended up doing it. I was like, this is the best way they could have done it. I do like that they shut down that whole thing, the whole Clark Kent comparisons.
Yeah, I mean
Um, yeah,
it actually made sense because the
it
only
did.
one that knew he was Sauron was Galadriel. She told the elves that are I don't know
Well,
how
in the first
far it
episode,
is.
in the first episode, she reveals to she does reveal that she knew
Gil-galad
to
and
Gil-galad and
Elrond.
Elrond, like that he is Sauron. That was some great acting and by
Yes.
Morveth Clark, by the way, in that scene. Like she's
She's
just like
also, by the
a
way,
terrified child of like, I really fucked up and I'm gonna have to tell
yeah.
dad and he's gonna be so mad at me. I thought
I,
her
I
acting in that scene was fabulous. Yeah.
I've also enjoyed her character more in this season. But anyway,
Yes, she consistently makes terrible decisions, but it's
but
but I
still has
yeah.
become more likable for me at least.
Yeah,
But
I definitely like Galadriel better. Her arc is pretty good
yeah. But
in this
anyway,
season. It was an improvement, I would argue at
yeah.
least. Yeah.
So the whole like him controlling information with the Barrow Whites and
Yeah.
basically isolating Celebrimbor and the way he manipulates him throughout this entire season is actually so believable.
Well, it's a master class in gaslighting and emotional abuse.
Yeah,
I
which
mean,
is
by the way, if anybody listening here is in a relationship and you find that Anatar's actions and words are a little familiar, get yourself some help. It's
yeah,
like
no, like yeah,
because this
on a
really like
serious note, this guy is the
he's
master
abusive.
manipulator, and he
He's a
is,
manipulator. He's a brilliant at it, and just the way they did it was just
and you
perfect.
make
Like,
he's and he's likable through the whole thing, which is crazy. It makes you
yeah,
feel like he is doing it to you.
yes, and it's what I just love how Celebrimbor he knows better. He allows himself to be manipulated, and that's so often how it really happens in real life.
Yeah,
His ego got in the way and allowed himself to be completely manipulated and
and
brainwashed,
and
and all this.
and yeah, I mean, Anatar played perfectly off of what he knows about him, which is he is
He's
a
desperate
descendant of
to
Feanor
he's
too.
desperate to live up to or surpass Feanor. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so it I mean, I'm sure we don't have all that much time to just harp
I know.
on
It's
about how great it is, but
yeah.
I
Damn it, it's so good.
and that's why I turned around so much on the Elven storyline, because
Yeah.
all of the other I even like Gil-galad more in this
Gil-galad is
season.
so much. They gave him more room to be a character. He was just kind of like
Yes,
a
before, yeah, he
kind of
was like a
dickish
stern
parent. Yeah.
king parent guy before,
Yeah,
but
he
yeah.
reminds me of like he in the first season he reminded me of like Mr. Darling and Peter Pan. Like he's just like kind of a stodgy father, just like kind of a yeah. I don't believe the children should be enjoying themselves. It's like kind of the vibe I got, but they fleshed him out a lot more and let Ben Walker be that character more.
Yeah.
And I really like Gil-galad in this.
Yeah, but him. So yeah, Sauron just masterfully turning an entire city to his will
Yeah, I mean
over
so
time,
good. Yeah,
and just the forging of the rings, and like it all of that felt true to the source, and it felt uh, actually believable, which is like
yeah,
one of the things I
yeah,
wanted from this show, which was like, how the hell does he do this? Because you read about it and it's
yeah.
in
It's not
such,
specific. Yeah,
yeah, it's in summary basically, because
right. Yeah,
it's
it's a
from like a
Silmarillion. Yeah.
history book, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's not going to there. Yeah. There's no dialogue of any of their time together.
Yeah, so the way that they were able to flesh that out and make it so believable and compelling
Ugh,
and in a
yeah.
way kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Definitely terrifying. Absolutely. Especially and we'll get there, but like especially the second half of the season, the Anatar and Celebrimbor stuff. Like,
Yeah,
oof,
it gets
man.
real creepy.
I
Like
mean, yeah. Charles Edwards and Charlie. Crap.
Vickers.
Charlie Vickers, yeah. I mean, those two had such great chemistry in these
Yeah.
roles that they were playing. Like they just did it. It was just phenomenal. Just really
I
fantastic
mean,
acting, great writing for those
jumping
scenes.
ahead to I mean, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, soon, but when he's
Yeah.
like caught in the time loop and he
Yeah.
realizes he's completely like neglected himself and everything
Yeah.
is like
When he looks in the mirror and he sees himself as he actually is for that moment
it's
is
like a
jarring. Yeah.
it's a scary, like, you
Yeah.
realize how like what Sauron's true power really is.
Yeah.
He's like
You really see the damage he is doing. Yeah.
he's like if Wormtongue wasn't a little shithead.
Yeah. Yeah, Wormtongue wishes he could have manipulated Theoden anywhere
Yeah.
near like Sauron manipulates Kelly Brimby, as I called him throughout
Yeah.
the entire season. I was like, oh no, poor Kelly Brimby.
Yeah, but and then
Yeah,
also through the whole thing that Celebrimbor still ends up remaining likable and still
yeah,
retains
and
nobility on
sympathetic.
some level.
Yeah, sympathetic even when he's like he should,
i-
he should
in
know
the
better
deepest
too, and
throes. Yeah.
yeah, um,
Oh man, it was very satisfying. So I think that was like, honestly, I feel like that storyline alone helped elevate this season
100%. I agree with you.
as
Yeah,
much
because
as
the acting and the writing in those sequences were so good.
it almost feels like the show was an excuse to do this.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I just feel like everybody from the directors of the scenes, which by the way, I will say, I know the way TV works is makes it this way, but it blows my mind that they were able to record their to shoot those Celebrimbor and Anatar scenes in sequence. That almost never happens. Like in order of the way we watch it is the
Oh,
way it
I
was
didn't even
recorded.
know that, but
Yeah,
that
which
is
is
really cool.
almost unheard of. That almost never happens in the business. But I think it
I guess it's
really
because
paid
it's
off.
all in one set, effectively.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, I think it paid off doing it that way, and also that the fact that there were different directors for those scenes does not show, and I think that's
no,
because they're in theory, like I would, if I was in charge, I would have been like, I want one director doing this sequence of
yeah,
scenes, but
yeah,
but they didn't do it that way, and it didn't, and that could have gone really wrong, actually.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it just felt like everybody with those scenes, like that, the directing, the actors, the writers had a lot of fun creating it,
yeah,
and I think it was just really, really well done. I don't know what else to say on that
yeah.
beyond
So
how freaking good
overall,
it was.
I would say that this season has improved. I mean, the acting in the first season was pretty great across the board.
Yeah,
Still,
it's like if there were any issues like with a performance, I don't think it had anything to do with the actor's ability, and it had everything to
yeah,
do with maybe the writing. Because again, there were a lot more examples of
bad
frankly
writing.
bad writing in the
Yeah,
first season. Yeah,
but I think pretty much everything across the board was elevated for this
100%. Yeah,
season. So I am it does make me hopeful for future seasons. And
yeah. I hope they continue to improve for sure. Yeah,
yes, yeah. I mean, we will touch on more sort of negative stuff in the second half of this, I think, because
yeah,
there
because that's
is
where there was
more
more
to
of it.
talk
Yeah,
about.
there was
The
more
middle
good
of
stuff, and there
this,
was more really bad stuff. Yeah,
yeah, the middle of this season is pretty rough, honestly. But
yeah. There were a lot of parts that were
like like I
challenging.
said, the first 3 episodes had me hooked.
Yeah,
Honestly, when they
I
all
mean
came out, I was excited.
it was a good call. I think releasing those first 3 episodes at the same time, and
Maybe
yeah,
just skip the fourth next time.
yeah. Again, it's like it's just one of those things.
Yeah, just the
Okay,
pacing and everything. Yeah, I don't know.
so
All
I have
right,
one
so
question for you. I have a
yeah,
question for you though.
uh-huh.
So one of the things that a lot of people have been complaining about in this was not so much the character of Mirdania, but her name. Now, objectively, it's not a good elf name. Did you have a big problem with it though? Because I didn't care that much. I know it's not a good elf name. That IA ending is not something
Yeah,
you would see in an elvish name. It just doesn't exist
almost seems
in
like a
Quenya
Latina
or
elf.
yeah, or maybe she's Italian or something. But yeah, it
I
was.
I didn't I
I,
didn't notice it, honestly.
I don't care. Like
Uh,
a
Maybe
lot of people complain, but I'm
Mirdani
like,
might have been
Right,
better.
yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like if they changed it to an E with the umlaut over it at the end instead of an A, it would have been totally fine. But again, I just
It
heard a
didn't.
lot
It
more
didn't
complaining
take me
about
out of
that.
it.
No, it's like I heard more complaining about that than I thought it deserved. I'm like, yeah, it's not a good elf name, but who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Like, the
I'm not.
names though are a thing in the show that have been
Yeah.
an issue, between
Oh,
Nori, Eleanor,
also one thing we
Brandyfoot,
didn't talk about was the troll named.
Damrod, yeah,
Yeah,
which
Damrod.
means which is the name of one of the uh
Rangers.
Northern Rangers, right? Like one of
No, it was
was it
Damrod was
Ithilien? An Ithilien
with
army?
Faramir and Ithilien,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
But it's still it's the same
yeah,
language. It's still a
right,
Numenorian name, so that was
right.
weird.
Which means I think copper hammerer or something, which isn't
Yeah,
like by itself terrible for a troll, except it's like he would never have a Western S name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe next time, guys, let's just name him like Doug.
Yeah. By the way, the voice of Damrod the Troll was played by Ben Walker, who plays Gil Galad. He was both.
Oh,
Isn't that
wow.
wild?
I didn't even know that. That's
He's
cool, though. He did
also
great.
I don't know what episode it was where Ben Walker sings as Gil Galad.
It was the first.
Was it the first where he's
Yeah,
singing the
because
Madier?
he was singing like a lament before they
Oh
brought
yeah,
the
before they put all
rings.
the rings on. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful singer. I know he's done
Oh, maybe it was
Broadway
the
and
second.
like
Well,
theater and
either
stuff,
way,
but
yeah, no, that was beautiful.
like, damn, Ben Walker's the dude. And again, the guy's like from Georgia, so you hear his regular talking voice, and he's just so American, and I love it. It's so different from how we see him in this show. It's just
Yeah,
fabulous.
definitely a
Um,
bigger fan of the elves overall.
that said,
So
I do love Damrod the Troll.
yeah, no,
It's like, don't love the name, love everything else about it. I love the
bad
freaking
name.
heavy metal theme that he has. I love the he's great.
Yeah, no, he
I
was
was there
awesome.
for it. I do
But
love the character, if not the name.
but
Someone did make I did hear somebody say one thing though that was like, well, we don't know his name is actually Damrod. That's just what Adar calls him. And Adar does
oh,
speak Quenya and Cinder, and so
it's maybe a little
it's
more believable.
yeah, it made it a little easier to
Sort of like how
just like
everybody
put aside.
calls Sauron, but
Yeah,
he just
even though
doesn't
he
correct
would
them.
never,
It's just
yeah,
same
which
with
he
the
would never.
troll.
Yeah, he never calls himself Sauron because it means the defiled or the horrible, like
Yeah, the betrayer or whatever it is. So yeah, he
Yeah,
probably wouldn't. That's not his choice. All right,
no,
so
he would. But anyway, yeah.
let's wrap it up.
I was gonna
And
say we have so much more to talk about, but not in this episode.
yeah,
'cause-
there's definitely more. But I corrected myself about the banger bag in the beginning of this episode. So I think that you might be the Lord of the Wrongs this time, Zerby.
Well, we'll see about that because I have a fact. So
Well,
we'll
let's
see
hear it.
we'll see how wrong it really is.
Let's see what your Tolkien fun fact is.
Yeah, so it's this was actually a piece in the news very recently that that I think it was I want to say it was Vladimir Putin had announced that he was going to be building a temple to Morgoth and that those other loser Valar are not going to going to be able to stop him.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
a little.
yeah.
I
Dark stuff, dark times we live in.
I hate to break it to you, Zerby, but I just moved down to Virginia, and they've already got one erected in D.C.
Oh no, it's on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, they're sacrificing humans and everything. I just played kickball over there the other night.
Make Numenor great again.
Oh no. Okay, well on that note.
Yeah. Right before we got political.
How about we say Namadier?
Say Namadier. Join us next time, friends, where we will discuss the second half of the second season of Amazon's The Lord of the Rings of Power. And if you have anything you'd like to say to us, complaining about how we're Amazon shills, or complaining that we're too mean to Amazon about this show, or you just have anything you'd like to say, you can get in contact with us by sending us an email at lordofthewrongspodcast@gmail.com, or you can send us a direct message on Instagram, and our handle is Lord of the Wrongs podcast.
All right. Well, I'd hate to hurt Jeff Bezos's feelings, so let us know. All
Poor
right.
delicate boy.
Namaste.
Namaste, friends. Join us next time.